Alright, the first adjustment of this finals happened before it even started, because Daniel decided to go small with Shed at the 5, and I assume there were a couple reasons for that. He probably thought they matched up better with Lou and Queso out there, because that allowed for one of them to be on Tyrese, then the other on Nemhard, or vice versa, and it's their most mobile lineup, so that allowed him to read everything. He probably also didn't want Zay to be guarding that two-man game between Tyrese and Turner because of how dangerous it can be, but I don't know if having Shet switch onto Tyrese, or even if his levels are any better than just having Zay show or outright blitz, because it didn't work in the second half, so even though it worked in the first half, it didn't seem that effective, and the real difference on defense was just their physicality out the gates. Their ball pressure and denial was causing the Pacers to run into severe turnover issues, because whenever they were forced to pick the rock up, there were no outlets, or whenever they turned their head or wasn't aware of the weak side rotation, they got the rock taken, or whenever they tried to thread a pass or make an entry they can usually make against other teams, they got the rock picked off, and whenever they rushed their play, they got called for an offensive foul. So all that franticness just caused the turnovers to compound non-stop. 19.5 should be a death sentence, but they were able to dodge a lot of them, because some of them were dead balls, and even some of the live balls were deep in the backcourt, so they were in positions to get back and take away any potential runouts. If anything, their defense was the most underrated part of their night, because not only were they making up for the turnovers with their transition defense, but they were also consistent with their usual game plan in the half court, and there's a lot of similarities between them and the Thunder on that end of the floor. They have their own lockdowns, they pull over early on those low rotations or at least make it, they show in the driving lanes, and they got bigs that can protect the rim, so their philosophy is to take away the paint the same way the Thunder do. Shet couldn't finish over Turner at all, and every time Dub tried to do the same to Naismith, it was no different, but even when Dub did get to his spots in the mid-range, he still missed. There was just no excuse for those, because even though he's used to playing that two-man game with Zay, and Zay is their best screener, he still got the looks he wanted with Shet, so it just came down to him missing. Without much production from him and Shet throughout, it was basically on Shea to generate all of their offense, so he just looked to exploit the Pacers' bigs levels, or Tyrese and Obi's hedges, and I thought he did as much as he could, because he at least made or created shots. But as I've said throughout their entire playoffs run, they have not consistently made their open looks from deep, so without anything easy inside on their drives, off their turnovers, or even on their O-boards, they struggled to put the Pacers away, especially in the first half, and that came around to hurt them, because with 19 more shot attempts, they should have been up way more than just 12. If it weren't for Lou being the only one that could tray it, they probably wouldn't have had a double-digit lead, or wouldn't have been able to even maintain it throughout the second half, because the Pacers found some advantages offensively, and by giving them that sliver of life entering halftime, they capitalized on it. In the first half, they were able to exploit their size advantages against mismatches because of the Thunder's reds, and they were able to trade whenever the Thunder were sagging off their bodies to babysit the paint. But even though there were still some of those in the second half, the big difference was really their adjustment to the Thunder's physicality. They just started matching it by getting downhill non-stop, so they started dictating the play instead of the other way around. And per usual, a lot of it was in their screening actions, especially against the Thunder's bigs, because they were turning quick around the corners, so they kept beating them to the spot or forcing them to show, and that was opening up a lane for a finish or spray. If anything, they didn't even need a screen, because they were breaking down the Thunder off the dribble just as easily, especially against Shea, and a lot of their late buckets were against him. He was a liability defensively, and I would give him a pass for the heavy carrying he had to do offensively, but Nemhard was doing the same thing and still having to pick him up, so I can't give him an excuse. That was an underrated part of Nemhard's night, because the rock was exclusively in his hands down the wire, so he was doing a lot on both ends, and an underrated part of Obi's and Turner's night was their shot making after that terrible start. All their turnovers could have easily swayed them the other way, but those two made a lot of timely shots, and that was one of their main themes as a team, because that was even showing from Siakam to Naismith, then to Tyrese calling game. They all consistently made their shots from deep to keep them afloat, whether it was contested or not, And that contrast in shot making compared to the Thunder was the biggest difference in their win, because they just walked the Thunder down until the very last possession. Just watch the tape.
Haliburton driving, pulls up, jump shot. It's good! It's good! With 3 times.